Oh, reader, hey, come closer. I am here to talk about my April progress with hrcyed. And April is also the month in which we're finally tackling this visual, because let's start off by giving you an overview of where we were. So basically this is the progress that I've made thus far. So I'm 74% into the challenge, except I'm not, because there are basically 5 challenges that aren't on that visual that I will be adding to the visual by the end of this episode. So we're going to go through everything that I have read in the month of April that fits into the hrcyed story, and then for those challenges that are going to be added, there's also one book I think from that I read prior to the month of April that I'm going to be slotting in there, because I finally put in the effort to try and figure out if I have read books that could fit for one of these challenges or not. But let's start off with the trusty challenges that we already had on the board up until this point, and let's see if there's any progress there that I've made. So the first challenge in which I've made some progress is the Disability Representation Challenge, in which I've added Interesting Facts About Space by Emily Austin, which has a neurodivergent protagonist, I would say an autistic protagonist, and that closes out my disability representation challenges with 5 different disabilities. And yeah, that is that. And then April is also Arab American Heritage Month, for which I have finished The Ash-Fire King by Chelsea Abdullah. I will admit I read this in part before the start of the month. This was a book that I started in February and that I finally managed to complete within the month of April, but I definitely think that I read more than enough pages within the month of April to let bygones be bygones and just count it. In any case, there is no rule about having to read the books for the Heritage Month within the exact Heritage Month, so regardless, I have counted it, I can count it legitimately. For translated works, I have made a swap. So I previously had Ellie by Junji Ito in there, and I have swapped it out with The Wax Child by Olga Ravan, because that means that now I have 5 translated books from 5 different languages in there, whereas previously I had 2 books in there that were translated from the Japanese. For the Ever Bigger Rainbow, I've slotted in The Subtle Art of Folding Space by John Chu into the light blue color slot. I do actually hope to replace it at some point, because I'm going to be using this book for 2 other prompts throughout this video, which is one too many because you're supposed to only use it twice. There is a possibility to use sort of like balance in order to use it more than 2 times, but I will hopefully just be able to swap it out in the coming 2 months for something else, and then I will no longer have to do so. And then I also fit in a book for the pink cover, and for this I originally had another one foreseen, but I ended up swapping that one as well, because otherwise that book would have been used 3 times, and so I ended up using Interesting Facts About Space by Emily Austin, which I've talked about previously. So there is 2 covers for this, both of them include pink, but one of them is like a super bright hot pink majority of the cover, so that one definitely counts for the pink cover. Then I also made a swap in the I actually think I already talked about this within the video, right? Even though no, I didn't swap. I added a book, which is the Shifters, to the Spooky Creatures challenge. So I finally found a book that has shifters in it, and that is The Ash-Fire King by Chelsea Abdullah. Then when it comes to new releases, I have caught up, because I counted Green and Deadly Things by Jen Lyons for the March new release, and then I also counted The Subtle Art of Folding Space by John Chu for the April new release. And basically this is where I should find a way to swap another book instead of The Subtle Art of Folding Space or the Ever Bigger Rainbow light blue cover, because the 3rd place in which I'm going to be using this book I cannot swap out. Then for the non-fiction challenge, I added a 2nd book, which is Tiananmen 1989 Our Shattered Hopes, which is a non-fiction about the massacre at Tiananmen Square. This fits the non-fiction challenge and is in the history brackets of non-fiction. I do think that I'm going to struggle with non-fiction, specifically with the fact that you need to read from 5 different sort of like topics. I don't know, I'll have to look into the file a little bit about how specific I should see that, because basically I currently have something that I filed as nature and something that I filed as history. But you know, the two next non-fictions that I basically have on my radar would be a nature and a non-fiction, and I'm a nature and a history one, and I'm like, wait, yeah, then I cannot even count those, even though those are non-fiction. So I don't know yet what to do with that. And then it is time to add a challenge. The first challenge that we're adding is the Q's recommendation challenge. So basically these are 3 books based off of recommendations that Q places on her channel, on her social media. And so there are 3 different categories. The first is the cozy mini reviews, and there's a playlist over on her channel for that. Then the other one is reading vlogs. Again, there's a playlist. And then the third one is like any short form content. So whether it's on YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels or TikToks. So I went through a whole lot of Instagram Reels in order to find one, and in the end I found actually 2 that would count, but I'm going to be counting The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett for this. So this is a book that I have read in March, but at that point in time I wasn't really looking into this particular challenge yet, so 1 out of 3 is currently fulfilled. I have looked at the other 2 categories. I didn't find anything that I had read already, and it's a little bit more difficult in the sense of like, I don't think I share a lot of like interests in terms of like the books that I want to read with Q. There are books that we have in common, but mainly they're books that I've already read, and so it was a little bit of a bit more of a challenge, I guess, to find books. But I did find a book that I have an interest in that is going to be something that I read in June, and then I also found a book that I hadn't really heard about before that I'm now interested in, that I'm gonna have to fit in somewhere into my reading life if I want to complete this challenge, because in principle it isn't really anything that has an actual priority for me, but I also think that it is very short, so probably something easy to fit in as well. Next up we have the subgenre challenge. So this one was already with us, but in the order that I have in the Storygraph challenge, this is the next one to talk about. So I was doing the fantasy genre, and so I'm doing the subgenres of fantasy. And now for the 5th subgenre I'm adding in cozy, because I read The Faraway Inn by Sarah Beth Durst. So I have to think about a 6th subgenre. If you see this video, let me know what 6th subgenre could be, but actually I probably think I'm going to use military, because I'm currently reading a military fantasy. Next up, I temporarily slotted something into the award season challenge, because ideally I would like to just do the full award season challenge with the Booker Prize, and I do have a book out from the library that is a Booker Prize finalist, but I don't know whether I'm gonna get around to it. It's not a priority. It's not really a book that interested me all that much. It's just that it was available in my library and I had this challenge going. But I have read another book that is a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize and for a ton of other prizes. It was longlisted for the Women's Prize last year, for example, and that is The Dream Hotel by Leila Lalami. So that one I've already read, and that is slotting in there, and I think technically, according to the rules, you are also allowed to do so. So we'll see whether I ended up swapping The Rest of Our Lives for that book at some point in time, but it's really not, I'm really not tempted to read this book. Maybe I should read the back of the book again to see what it is about again, because maybe that will get me interested in it, but I don't think I was all that interested in it the first time reading the synopsis. Next we're adding another challenge, and that is the TBR challenge, and basically the idea being that you play some sort of a TBR game in order to determine which books you're going to be reading. And in the month of April, if you've watched my vlogs, then you will have known that I was using a spinner wheel to determine which books were going to be the books that I was going to choose, because they were top of the TBR. And so I got through some 5 books, I think, with that spinner wheel, and those are the 5 books that are slotting in here. And this is also why I'm ending up with quite a fair few books that are going to be used multiple times, because this challenge and another challenge has a lot of overlap. So if any of those books count for something else aside from that, then all of a sudden they are there 3 times. But so first of all, we have, I mean, this is not in the correct order anymore because I don't remember the correct order anymore, okay? But we have The Faraway Inn by Sarah Beth Durst, Green and Deadly Things by Jen Lyons, The Beheading Games by Rebecca Lehman, Then the Tiananmen 1989, and that is it. Then we have a fifth book. That slot is still empty because I'm still currently reading it. I didn't manage to finish it within the month of April. I didn't actually intend to use this as my TBR challenge, but then when I was kind of looking through what the challenges were that I was missing for this board, I was like, oh, a game to determine what you're reading. Well, actually I just did that, right? So then I decided that I was going to use that particular method to count. Next up we have the make a quote one, and I have done nothing for this. I do have 3 books in mind out of the 5 words that are part of my quotes, so I might want to do a reading vlog for them at some point. But on the other hand, I'm also like, yeah, but when? Like 5 books? That's quite some time dedicated to them, and you know, only 1 book is actually physically on the TBR, so only 1 book would actually help reduce that TBR. Next up we have Readathon challenge, for which you have to complete the prompt in a readathon. I have decided to do magical readathon for this one, and my magical readathon had the higher callings, and so I've determined that because I had the system where I could read however many books I wanted, as long as they fit the 3 prompts that we were given, and I could also take the 2 compulsory classes, I decided that okay, if I count something for every one of the 3 prompts and something for every one of the 2 complementary classes, then that is my readathon completed. So I had to read 5 books for this, and in the month of April I only got to 4. The 5th one I was reading in the transition between April and May, so you'll see about that one in the May hrcyed update. But so basically we have the hrcyed King, which is also in here for the 3rd time now, and then the subtle art of folding space. So the hrcyed King, by the way, was in there for stars on the cover. The subtle art of folding space was in there for a book that has space in the title. Tiananmen 1989 was in there for a book that was top of the TBR. The Stardust Grail was in there for being a sci-fi, and then the final book that I haven't finished is a reread. But so yeah, that is, so currently 4 out of 5 in that, so that's good progress. Then we have the final challenge that I haven't figured out yet what I want to do with that one, and so that also means that at the end of this video, when I'm gonna give the overview, it's still not gonna be fully accurate, the amount of prompts, because I don't know whether it is how many things I might have to read for this hrcyed one prompt. I also have to kind of look into it, like, does this mean like you take in a full challenge, like, you know, the 5 non-fiction challenge or something like that, and so you have to read 5 books to complete it? Or is it just like one particular? Is it like, I want to read the June release, you know? Is it like that? I'll have to look into that. I assume that's probably more like the first, but if there was anything like the 24-hour prompt that was in hrcyed 2 now, then maybe I'm gonna choose that one, because that's like light. I don't want to add too much to this. Okay, let me switch it quickly, come in here to tell you guys that I have decided what I'm going to do for hrcyed 1, and I'm going to read a book that I have crowdfunded, and that is The King Must Fall, which is a short story anthology which I read in March for r/fantasy. Thank you r/fantasy gods. And then the final challenge is the personal challenge, and up until a few minutes ago there was actually nothing slotted in there, and there's also nothing slotted in there, but now I have decided what I want my personal challenge to be. And my personal challenge is going to be that for these 2 remaining months of the hrcyed challenge, I want to pick up 2 books each month for which I'm just like, I want to read this book. I have no place within hrcyed to slot it in that I know of prior to having picked up the book, but I really want to read it, and I don't want hrcyed and its like prompts to keep me from picking up this book. So this is just my cheeky little way of making me able to read the books that I want to read, because yeah, at this particular moment the Raven Scholar is really calling out to me. So I might actually pick that one up as soon as I've finished my current read. And so yeah, that one can then go into the personal challenge. So for that challenge I have to read 4 books over the next 2 months, and so that is the end, the total of it. So making some room for a visual over here. So this is where we are right now, and the good news is that even though I have added in a lot of challenges now and a lot of extra prompts that needed to be fulfilled, I have also still progressed further within the readathon, like not a readathon, reading challenge than I had before. So we were at 74%, we're at 80% now. So obviously we need to do more in the coming 2 months if we want to still finish her yet, but it is also like I'm happy to see this, because I was actually really kind of thinking that, you know, I was never going to make it, because the moment I was going to add all these challenges in, my progress was going to like go down the drain. But actually, considering it like this now, it's like, oh, actually I am in a decent spot. I need to read 15 prompts per month at this point in time, I think, in order to get to it. And of course we can double up, so it's not like I need to read 15 books in order to do so. Have I read anything this month that can actually count for one of these? No, because up until this point I've only reread stuff, and rereads are, well, they can count. You just need to use some budget for it, but also I don't think that they could actually count for anything at this point in time. So we'll see, because I don't know whether I'm gonna do much, whether I'm gonna put in much effort to try and get fully there. I actually also think that I can read one less, actually, because this is currently also counting Antarctica, but Antarctica is very much a bonus prompt, so I don't actually have to do it neither in order to fulfill hrcyed. But so yeah, that one prompt is not going to make a huge difference in the sense that, you know, in the whole scale of how many prompts I still have to fulfill. But on the other hand, finding a book set in Antarctica that I want to read is definitely like, if I don't do that, that's a load off of my shoulders. Obviously, months ago I was like, yeah, of course I'm gonna do Antarctica. I go all in or I don't do anything at all. But now I'm like, yeah, you know, I don't think I need to do Antarctica. But so yeah, that is my progress in hrcyed thus far. I'm happy to have finally made the visual, and even though the one challenge that's probably gonna like earn me the least, not even necessarily, we'll see, but probably a challenge that will take me time and might not get me a huge payout, is the make a quote one, but I actually think I'm quite excited about doing that one, so I'm probably gonna make a dedicated vlog for that one eventually, where I'm reading 5 books for my 5-word quote, and I think that that would also probably be fun, and that is of course what this whole challenge is about, and what sometimes my competitive brain forgets, because the last 2 hrcyed updates I was definitely more like talking about how I wasn't sure whether I wanted to go all in or not. And even though I'm filming this video the day after I filmed the previous hrcyed update, I feel my mind shifting to the we can do this attitude, whereas I'm like, yeah, the point was that we needed to decide whether it was worth it, right? Can we bring you back to reality, please? But so yeah, that's the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you guys for the next one. Bye!